in the late 40s, early 50s, is that women weren't allowed to have a mortgage in their own right. They had to have a man sign for the mortgage to secure the loan because they were deemed too much of a risk.
I suppose that brings me to what happened after the shoot. Once that working relationship was established, how did it continue creatively? Did it lead naturally into more ideas or other projects you started developing together?
I've literally, as we sit here now, pretty much, was it yesterday, I think?
Yes,
finished
yeah.
my first draft of another true story,
Okay.
which is called Mrs. Alexander to See You. The basic story behind it is about a woman who is a single mother just after World War II. Her husband leaves her and she's in rented accommodation, and eventually after several years the landlord comes and tells her that he plans to retire and he's going to sell the property, and it's her home.
Yes.
And so she trudges around many banks asking for a mortgage, and at that particular point in time, in the late 40s, early 50s, is that women weren't allowed to have a mortgage in their own right. So they had to have a man sign for the mortgage to secure the loan because they were deemed too much of a risk. And so she ends up going to the bank every week, several times a week, for over a year, and keeps asking the same question, keeps pestering and so forth. And it's about the relationship that starts off at first being quite fractious, and the bank manager finding this woman coming in every other day being quite annoying, to developing into something where there becomes respect and almost a love story between them. And then comes the dilemma for him is, does he give her the mortgage and she doesn't come back, or does he not and continues to see her?
It's so lovely.
And she becomes one of the first people to gain a mortgage in her own right, which is quite remarkable, because the law wasn't changed until 1975.
Okay.
When banks were then told that they could not refuse a woman gaining a mortgage just because they were a woman.
And this was a family member?
Yes, it was my grandmother that was Mrs. Alexander, who got one of the first mortgages in her own name.
Amazing, isn't it? And with a story like this, especially one connected to your own family history, there's also a very specific question of perspective, because it's centered so strongly around a woman's experience.
Yeah. In that film, there's practically, I think, only one male role, and all the rest of the cast are female. It's nice to see if I could get a bit of a female voice and be able to sort of, write for women.
Yeah.
Because not knowing not being obviously experiencing firsthand what it is to be a woman, that's quite difficult to write in someone else's voice.
Joe, when you read it, did you imagine yourself inside that world in any way, either as a performer or as someone helping within the production?
Well, you never know.
In
Yes.
my dreams, in my dreams.
Yeah.
I'd love to be part of the production in some shape or form.
So I guess the next hurdle is getting it from a finished draft into production.
So that's the hardest thing, I think, in this process, apart from coming up with great stories. And it's getting them made, so investment. And I
Yeah.
think there's so many amazing stories out there that never get made because they just can't get off the ground. You need money.
Audiences aren't coming to Mrs. Alexander expecting submachine guns and explosions, are they?
Yeah, I mean, it's a sort of comedy drama. I mean, it's quite whimsical in places, but there's some really nice hard-hitting scenes as well. And I think, it's very much a film that talks about the social environment of the time and that. And it certainly has relevance today as well. I think, with particularly politically at the moment, things being so polarised as well.
Yeah.
And, opinions of almost, let's try and go back to sort of the 1940s, 1950s, if you like.
It does feel deeply personal, while the story also works as a form of social commentary, and an uncomfortably timely one at that.
Yeah.
So, as you develop it as a period drama, I would imagine that world would have to evoke so much of the social code of the time, not only historically, but also through production design, period detail, and what was possible for a woman like Mrs. Alexander. That must be fascinating to build, but also pretty demanding.
It is, yeah. And I think it also adds the fact that it's more of a struggle for her, because
Yeah.
it was quite an unusual thing to be able to do. I mean, women had, they either had the option of they had to raise the entire money for the house they wanted to buy or the flat, etc., or find money through another means, or they had to have a man sign on the mortgage as a guarantor. So that could be obviously a husband, a father, an employer, but finding not every family situation had that, and certainly from my grandmother's point of view, she didn't have that either. She didn't really have there wasn't really any male figures within the family, and she had 3 jobs, so it was quite difficult to get one employer to then guarantee her mortgage when they're only really providing a third of her income.
And in terms of finding that world visually, would you ideally shoot any of it in Carshalton?
It would be lovely to actually be able to shoot certainly exteriors of the original house.
But it's got a feel of, when I read the script initially, of Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. I don't know whether you saw that film.
I didn't. But I can actually see you in that world. You have the right presence for it. Has that crossed your mind at all?
Well, I'm sure Richard's got a long list. But as long as I could get involved in some way, but hopefully raise investment.
Yeah, that's the difficult part.
That's the first stage before you do anything else, is
Yeah.
getting the money together.
When you think how many fantastic scripts have gone by the wayside because the investment simply was not there,
Yeah.
it really shows how much independent production depends on finance.